Very good afternoon, and thanks for clicking on to this quick update on the tropics. We have got the development of Tropical Storm Rafael in the Caribbean Sea, expected over the next several hours to become a Category 1 hurricane. It is grazing the western side of the island of Jamaica at the moment, expected to move up towards the central and western side of Cuba, bringing hurricane force weather to this region. And it is expected to then move into the Gulf of Mexico. A quick piece of information from Dr. Phil Klotzbach of CSU. Tropical Storm Rafael formed in the Caribbean late last night, the 17th named storm of the 2024 Atlantic hurricane season, and the 10th to form. This is the interesting thing, the 10th to form since the 24th of September. Which is pretty amazing, actually, when you think about that. That's the most Atlantic named storm formations on record between the 24th of September and the 4th of November, breaking the old record of 9 set all the way back to 1950. So obviously, if we didn't have the lull that we seen back in the month of August, where would this season have ended up? That would be the question. Obviously, with a lack of activity during the month of August, you had a lot of that untouched, untapped fuel within the West Atlantic Basin, including the Caribbean and the Gulf of Mexico. So I suppose you could argue that several systems running through there during the month of August may have removed an element of that fuel, that source. But arguably that is an impressive stat. So 10 formations between the 24th and the 4th of November is quite impressive. So looking at the IR imagery, you can see that Rafael has a lot of convection, especially over the eastern side of the system. There may be a small element of westerly shear, southwesterly shear affecting the system. But it is, like I say, the center is around about here. So it's just to the southwest of Jamaica at the moment. We've got a lot of southerly flow, thunderstorms running into the island from the south, as can be seen in this IR imagery. And then if we look at a couple of interesting pieces of information, this is the current location. So kind of to the southwest, like I say, possibly within 25 to 50 miles from Jamaica, I would imagine. And we have got some nasty weather to speak about in this part of the world at the moment. So let's look forward here and look at the GFS ensembles first of all and see the forecast track. Pretty good agreement that is moving up towards and slightly to the east of the Cayman Islands here, but it is expected to move into the western side of Cuba, affecting the capital Havana, and then move into the southern Gulf. The question is, how strong will this system become over the next 24 hours before moving into the Gulf of Mexico? We know that it is going to likely significantly weaken as it moves deeper into the Gulf. Both the ocean heat content is reduced. We also increase both wind shear and dry air as a trough is digging into the southern United States. This is off the multi-model run here. You can see a bit of a divergence. Some models take it up into the central Gulf, kind of aiming more towards Louisiana. A few members take it up towards Mobile and even into the west side of the Florida Panhandle here. Another bunch of members take it to the west. As that trough digs south here, the system could track either north, northeast, or pretty sharp west. A lot of it depends on how strong the system becomes in terms of the steering flow and what element of the flow it becomes embedded within. So there is still a lot of uncertainty in terms of the intensity. The majority of the members obviously show this system becoming a Category 1 hurricane. A couple of outliers show it going into Cat 2 strength, which wouldn't be out with the realms of possibility. And then you notice that pretty much all members indicate by the time we reach 84 to 96 hours, this system quickly drops off in intensity. Looking at the sea surface temperature anomalies here real quick. First of all, You can see here it's generally warmer than average, especially within the Caribbean. We also have somewhat warmer than average sea surface temperatures within the Gulf. A couple of our areas of upwelled water. We've actually, according to this anyway, we've actually slightly warmed the shelf waters here. These were slightly below average back during the weekend, but interesting enough, it's not indicating blues, which represent below average. It's actually slightly warmed. According to this anyway, we've still got a couple of pockets of colder than average with the legacy of Milton. We've also got some around the Keys, generally between Key West and Naples. We've got an area of below average, slightly below average to the north of Cuba in the western side of the Bahamas. Also, looking at the actual SSTs here, and you can see that we've got 29, 30 Celsius waters at the moment underneath Rafael. It's expected to drift towards the northwest here, still within a 29C skin temperature here, and those waters extend quite deep below the surface. Then the cool slightly as it moves towards the western side of Cuba, moves into the southern Gulf with 28 to 29 Celsius waters, but then there is a bit of a drop off. We've got a slight loop current influencing things at the surface. Notice here we've got a ribbon of 28 Celsius waters here, generally kind of just drifting to the eastern side of the central Gulf. 27 Celsius is pretty much right on the cusp, but when you go below the surface, that extent of warm waters kind of slightly diminishes. We've lost a little bit of the ocean heat content underneath the surface, which means that is a detrimental effect on the system. But currently we do have Rafael as just bear with a second here. We've got, I believe it's a 60 mile per hour tropical storm. So you can see here winds 60 mile an hour, pressure at 994 millibars, moving in a northwesterly direction at 13 miles per hour. If we click on to the current cone of NHC, expected to become a hurricane. We've got hurricane warnings now in effect generally from these islands just to the north, between the Caymans and Jamaica. I can't remember the name of these islands actually, but these are under a hurricane warning as expected. It is expected by the time we reach this evening for it to be probably a 75 to 80 mile per hour hurricane, then moves towards the east side of the Cayman Islands, then moves generally anywhere from central to the western tip of Cuba. That region here is under a hurricane warning, and we expect hurricane force conditions to develop during the course of Wednesday, so tomorrow. Then it drifts into the Gulf of Mexico, as you can see here, holding hurricane status all the way out to 7 o'clock on Friday morning, according to NHC. Then it becomes a storm, and then generally that cone really opens up with the increase in uncertainty. But looking further on, this is the ECMWF relative humidity, so it is embedded within quite a moist atmosphere at the moment. Lots of dry air to the north. It's being steered by this reasonably strong area of high pressure over Bermuda at the moment, so it's catching that southwestern boundary here. That flank remains within quite a moist environment as we move through the course of tomorrow, but there is dry air present not that far to the west of the circulation here, over the Yucatan, over Central America. What's going to happen is, as this continues to track northwards, notice there's quite a lot of moisture getting lifted north ahead of the system, but we're already potentially starting to see dry air affect the system. Now, the problem is at this time of the year, when you've got that dry air, it chokes off the thunderstorm activity obviously as well. Shear is still relatively weak at this point in time, but it's as we move into the period later tomorrow and into Thursday, that dry air still is affecting the western side of the circulation. It's not wrapping around the center itself at this stage, but you can see a very clear dry air intrusion on the west side, moisture getting lifted northwards here on the southern and eastern flank of the circulation. So it's fighting against this dry air on the western side at the moment here. And then as we see the system moving into the Gulf, that dry air, it kind of wraps around more of the circulation itself. Now, it's actually, according to the ECM, holding a little bit better than what I actually initially thought. It's actually managing to wrap some of that moisture around itself and then choking off the dry air, according to this model run anyway. But the shear at this stage is going to increase. We've got a trough digging south. We've got a strong jet at this time of the year affecting the northern Gulf. And really, once you start to see those winds 20 to 40 knots blowing out of the west, that is going to cut off, basically shave off the tops of those thunderstorms and cut the system off at its knees. You can see here as we move towards the 15Z Friday time frame, according to the ECMWF, we're starting to lose a lot of that moisture. And by the time we get deeper into the day on Friday, we've essentially lost a lot of the moisture, and the system is kind of void of convection altogether. But dry air is choking this system off. The shear is shaving the thunderstorms off their tops, and we're starting to lower the ocean heat content as well. Let's have a look and see in terms of the wind shear of the ECM model here, and I can show you exactly what is going to take place here. So just bear with a second here. Skip back through to about the current time frame here. So we've got a little bit of shear to speak about, if I'm being honest, but low shear. So it is going to allow the system to become a hurricane. And then if you notice here, as we play through, very strong winds blowing southern United States into the northern portions of the Gulf. We are seeing a little bit of westerly shear associated with that trough digging south into the northern Gulf of Mexico. Then it's as it moves into the southern Gulf, while dry air may or may not be choking the circulation off and kind of almost sucking out the moisture, but shear is definitely going to be increasing at this stage here. But notice the pressure actually drops from the low 990s into the upper 980s in millibars, so it may be doing a little bit of a tightening here, maybe running right over the top of that loop current. So even though the SSTs are 28 Celsius, kind of just above the threshold, we may have that 28 Celsius down to about 100, 150 meters below the surface. And it may find a way of trying to deepen or strengthen a little bit more, but it's going to be a very short-lived period of time, because that shear is going to significantly increase. The dry air is going to increase as well. And eventually this system will probably, in my opinion anyway, it may never reach the United States coastline. It may be just completely torn apart by that stage. You notice here, this is a 0Z Saturday morning, and it's stuck over the central Gulf because the pressure, basically the jet getting forced southwards means that the system doesn't have any access to the Gulf Coast of the United States. So, yeah, that is an update on Raphael. Expected to become a hurricane by the time we reach this evening. And I'll do another update later on in the week, if not Saturday, as per usual. Stay tuned. European Outlook coming up in the next hour or two. So, I hope you can watch that at your leisure. Like and subscribe. See you next time.